to the Lou Stenberg Assessment. Stay tuned for your host.
Welcome to the Lou Stenberg Assessment. I am your host, Lou Louise, and we are kicking off episode 5, season 3. I think that's episode 5. Not too sure, but at the end of this podcast, I will figure it out. Today we are going to be talking about basically New York. Not the whole episode, but the first part of the episode. So let's kick off the first round of business and let's talk about sex. Well, not my sex life, but the sex life of the governor of New York. So Andrew Cuomo, we're going to talk about him because he's been in the news lately. Nothing positive. It's been quite negative for the governor. So why do I say he has no sex life? Or if I didn't, I feel like he doesn't. Because if the alleged allegations are true, the governor of New York sexually harassed a bunch of hyenas. I call them hyenas. I'm probably going to get a lot of sad emojis for saying what I'm about to say, and I don't mean to sound like a mean girl because no one deserves to be harassed. But whenever allegations of sexual harassment involving governmental civil servants are brought to light, it's usually a bunch of overweight hyenas stepping forward, claiming that this and this happened. So I want to know what the fuck happened to the little foxes of the world. Is it because foxes of the world have been used to unwanted gestures from the opposite sex that it no longer bothers them? And the one who lacks the attention are the first to jump. I'm just saying what each and every one of you out there are probably thinking when you see these women come forward. You think, oh my God, somebody give this idiot a glasses so he can see what I'm saying. Yeah, that's mean. But it's true.
I type about 90 words a minute. I'm completely well-versed in all the IBM and Macintosh programs.
Well, Miss Coggins, you're obviously qualified for the job. You have all the necessary skills and experience. But you're extremely attractive. You're gorgeous. I'm looking at you. I can't even remember my name. So I'm afraid this is not going to work out. Thanks for coming. You're luscious. You're ravishing. I would give up red meat just to get a glimpse of you in a bra. I'm terribly sorry.
As you can see, my references are impeccable. I think I'd be a real asset here. My only concern is I do take care of my mother, so will there be many late nights?
I can't imagine.
Okay, back to this. It's clear that Cuomo is hard up for female companionship and desperately in need of relief. Fornication, no longer satisfying the desire. Would seem that the governor is only receiving blood flow to the southern region areas of his anatomy. I'm just curious to know why would anyone stay and continue to work for a man that they found repulsive, stay in a job that's paying them chump change if they felt threatened and uncomfortable. Remember, every boss, no matter how powerful they are, have bosses. Did someone try to report these allegations prior to it coming out? Did these women reach out to the right agency to try to have someone document these unwanted advances? Again, I'm not for Team Cuomo, but would these women have sung a different tune if the sexual harassment had come from somebody their own age, someone they found attractive, or had a romantic interest in? Why do we set different standards, different rules, but only when we are annoyed and repulsed? Why do we overlook inappropriate behaviors from people of the same sex? and treat people of the opposite sex differently. Is it not the same behavior? Yes, I agree that Governor Cuomo acted unprofessionally. He is a self-centered, narcissistic person who is clearly suffering from a grandiose, overt type personality. When you mix them all together with a touch of his overactive libido, it becomes nauseating, and there are consequences. But we have to start viewing women as helpless. As they say, it takes two to tango. Victimization happens to both men and women. Here's a reality check for society. We all should try deflating that bubble mommy and daddy have shielded us in our entire life, because in the real world, there are many Pee Wee Hermans and Cuomos within our society that will say inappropriate things, that will behave inappropriately. How we deal with them is what makes you not a victim. If you remember, President Joe Biden was accused of inappropriate touchy-feely behavior during his presidential campaign. Even though it was harmless, it started to take on a life of its own. This whole Me Too movement have created a society that walks on eggshells. One false move and that shell cracks. The question we need to ask of the governor of New York is, why did he provide inaccurate COVID-19 updates? Why did he intentionally lie to the residents of New York and to the world for months while the death toll mounted in his state? Why did so many people die? And why were their corpses left in box trucks on the side of the street? If he is to be removed from his civic duties as governor, that should be reason number one, followed by his overactive libido. Let's move on away from overactive libido and talk about underactive leadership. Recently, President Biden was seen boarding Air Force One, which was set to departure to Atlanta, Georgia. President Biden could be seen fallen not once, not twice, but 3 times. You gotta give him credit. That is Navy SEAL all the way. Hoorah! Navy SEALs, President Biden. Oh my God. Let the shit go. I mean, he's 78. It was very windy, and maybe he was just light on his feet. Besides the president's misstep, which is concerning, but not concerning as to who in God's green earth is running this country. I don't know if it's you, but for me, I'm starting to wonder, who is in charge? Who is running this country? I know we have a president, but I have no idea what's happening. I don't think the rest of the world knows what's happening. Is this country running itself? So that's been my big concern. We've got a president who, when he speaks, his sentences are mangled. It's as if a person who is having some cognitive disabilities. So you would see that in, and I'm no MD, even though I have a few MDs in my family, but you see that, and I've been in the healthcare field, you see that with patients who've had stroke, a mild to severe stroke, memory loss, cognitive, unable to speak. It's hard to understand what they're saying. When they speak, it's sort of mumble jumbo. That is what is happening to this president. So I'm curious to know, has he had a stroke? Maybe in the last, 5 years? Something is just not right. So if it's not a stroke, we need to start asking, is it early onset Alzheimer's, is a dementia. Something's happening and no one sort of wants to know about it or talk about it, and I don't understand why. Well, we have a bunch of Democrats running the show. Maybe that's why, but something isn't kosher, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. There are millions of people who have strokes. There are millions of people who suffer from Alzheimer's and dementia. Figure out which one it is, because I'm leaning more of he's had a stroke, it was hush hush, and this is the result, the aftermath. He does not seem to remember the names and position of his cabinet members. He calls his VP president. No, sweetheart, you are the president, Biden. His health, his mental status, well, what we know about it, is concerning, and Americans should be concerned. Don't get me wrong. If it came down to Trump or Biden all over again, I would vote Biden. There is no shame in my game. I might have the Trump deranged syndrome. And it's okay. I don't care. I think majority of Americans voted Biden because people were just exhausted from months of civil unrest. And we were. Americans were just exhausted. I mean, I was sick of it. People were fearful of a president, and I'm talking about Trump at the time, who thought of himself as Thomas Gage and wanted the American people to relive the days of the American Revolution all over again. So basically, we went from a president who was unhinged to a president who was incoherent. Some of the recent executive decisions from this current administration is worrisome, and it should worry you. Who opens up the border unprepared for the what ifs and just allows undocumented immigrants, unaccompanied children, and drug cartels to use this opportunity to smuggle drugs into the United States? Like we didn't have enough drug problems here already. How is this helping the undocumented people you allow to cross the border? How is this helping the American people? Such an impulsive decision has displaced, killed, and destroyed many in the process. Just how helpful was having that 100-day moratorium put in place without any strategic planning for the aftermath, for what happens, what comes next after 100 days. No plan, nothing was put in place. We just decided to open up a border and allow people to come into the U.S. Then we allow them a 100-day stay. And then what happens after? Does the president's 100-day moratorium secure a free passage of stay for the millions of undocumented immigrants? This administration, like the last, have put our nation's security at great risk. Is this the new cancel culture? Institutionalized rules that were set by our founding fathers, rules that have been amended over time, but remains a functional structure. Rules that every immigrant who ever had to come to the United States prior to this new administration had to follow, had to wait their turn in line, providing the right and proper documents. Our parents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, nephews, we all had to do that. So every step and process we had to go through just gets tossed out the window because of cancel culture, cancel culture. I can't even say cancel culture. I don't even know what the fuck that is. But we'll get on that in a minute. So we're going to throw out, because coming to the U.S. was a privilege, an honor. Where is the privilege, honor, and gratitude when people do not have to wait their turn provide proper document before being allowed entrance into the United States. Not only is the United States overpopulated with massive amount of people on governmental welfare programs, but when you add all of these undocumented immigrants who cannot work because institutionalized laws state that you have to have legal status, a social security number to be able to obtain legal work. So what happens when you have thousands and thousands? Who do I sound like? Thousands and thousands. I sound like Trumpy. But, oh God. But what happens when you do have thousands and thousands of people who have entered the United States undocumented, desperate people needing work so they can support their families? States will then see a rise in fraud and criminal activities because you can't work. How do you provide for your family? So you have crime rates that will go up. Then you'll have the government, which has already started. Then the government will need to raise taxes because who's gonna take care of these families, these undocumented families? The government, obviously. So what does the government do? The government needs to raise taxes. But the government says we're going to raise taxes on the wealthy. And again, this already started. But it's not the wealthy they're raising taxes on, because you raise taxes on the wealthy, it's like a dent, a little dent in their pocket. Who does it affect the most? The middle class, the working family. And the middle class always buys this bullshit. The Democrats spoon feeds them this bullshit of, we're going to raise the taxes on one class of society. No, Uncle Sam doesn't give a shit what class of society you are. Uncle Sam just wants his money. So whether you make a penny, Uncle Sam is going to squeeze blood out of that penny. There are people in society who get excited. Oh yeah, well, good for them. Take their money. No, they're also taking your money, you idiot. You're going to suffer the most. It's just going to be a little dent in a wealthy person's pocket. So for the middle class, it's going to feel like an earthquake. Don't think it doesn't affect you. It affects you greatly. Whatever little money you make, you can kiss that goodbye. So what happens when people cannot support themselves because you have raised taxes? What do we think happens next? They give up on their American dream and become dependent on the government to provide for them. Since it is the same government that raised taxes and took their money, they figure, hey, if you're going to take from me what little I have, I'm just going to depend on you. And I'm not going to try and make it an effort to better myself. So this is what happens. It is one big recycling clusterfuck of a governmental system. And it makes no sense whatsoever. No sense whatsoever. But we keep going around in a circle trying to implement and revise and amend. You got to start it from scratch. It's just not making sense. It's not working. You've tried A, B, and C. There are more people on welfare, and we all know where that comes from. The Democratic Party. They are an entitlement party. They just love to keep the black man oppressed and dumb. And they buy it each and every time. I'll give you money if you vote for me. But that's how the Democratic Party works. They are the oppressors. But until people realize, when they look back at their life and think, my God, for 10 years, I've been voting Democratic. I've been living in this uninhabitable environment for 10 years. My life has not changed. I have no growth. I have struggled just to feed my children. You don't have to struggle. I don't know why you struggle, because you choose to struggle. So it's hard for me sometimes to feel bad. And I understand there are people who struggle because unforeseen events took place in their life and they have fallen, but they plan on getting back up and starting all over again. And then there's just a lazy bunch. You're just lazy. You're useless. You're taking up space in this world. You have no motivation. You have no desire. You just continue to live off government money. And you're okay with that. Until our governmental system, they can start from the bottom and work their way up, you're just going to have these entitlement programs. And that is the only reason why you have it, is for the Democrats to keep you oppressed and dumb. Keep you oppressed and stupid. You're stupid enough to get on television and ask, you got to be dumb to get on television and ask a mayor of Providence to, what was asked, request for a place for you to ride ATVs. How old are you again? For fuck's sake, how old are you? Go get a job. If you had a job, you wouldn't want to be on an ATV because your butt would be tired from working and you would want to take a nap. You would want to do something productive, probably go to bed and work all over again, because that's what we are. We're a slave to the labor market. But you must have enough time on your hands that you can get on television and ask a mayor to find, I can't even, that's what I'm talking about, the Democrats. They just keep you oppressed and stupid. So good luck with that. So let's move on. The last bit of business here is we're going to talk about that word cancel culture, because I don't even know. I'm still trying to grasp and understand what the hell is canceled culture. I think I know what it sounds like and what it might mean, but yeah, no. So let's just dive right in. Because I would like to know who came up with such a cockamamie, absurd, crazy idea called canceled culture. Those individuals should be seriously medicated and committed to a loony bin. I know, mean girl again, mean girl. Mean girl. Another sad emoji. So, these individuals, which should be locked away, medicated, we can revisit them and come back later. What exactly is cancel culture? For me, it's basically trying to erase history, which can never be done. Basically trying to diminish anything and everything that makes those individuals uncomfortable. And that is like an oxymoron. So you're going to try to get rid of everything that makes you uncomfortable. How does that work? Because I don't think it's worked for anybody. You can never get away from the stressors of life unless you lock yourself away on a deserted island. But even then, you will need to find food, water, shelter. So you would still have these stressors. My view of anyone who supports cancel culture is an individual who lives in fantasy land. They have got their bubble floating up in the clouds, happy, 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 until that inflated bubble bursts, and they have to come back down to earth. And reality is too much for them to deal with. So they need to remove the stressors in their life, instead of learning how to deal with things they cannot change. Have you ever heard someone and thought maybe that person had misunderstood what was said to them? Or maybe you thought, my brain did not process that bit of information correctly. Recently, on national news, a new cancel culture phenomenon has emerged. But wait for this. We've got African American students on college campuses throughout the U.S. demanding that colleges provide them with segregation on campus. Every time I hear this, oh my God, really? This is what I'm talking about. The Democrats keep the black man oppressed and dumb. You must really be stupid to be a college student and ask in the college for segregation of blacks and whites. You really must be stupid. I mean, you've got to laugh. And parents, you must want to cry. Because you're watching your hard-earned money go down the toilet. Your child's not getting smarter each semester. They're getting dumber and dumber as the semesters go by. And then they're going to be graduating with nothing upstairs. I mean, I've heard it all. But this one took the cake. This idea brought on by black students who felt that white students do not understand black culture, and therefore they should be separated. And some of these colleges are actually entertaining such a ridiculous idea. Cancel culture not only demoralizes and minimizes the blood, sweat, and tears of our African ancestors who endured slavery, fought for decades to end segregation so that blacks would not be judged based upon the color of their skin, but by their moral character. To witness the bloodline of our ancestors, people who just got out of training pants, try to change our black history to fit their narrative, which is in La La Land, somewhere in the clouds, must have some of our black ancestors, what Dr. Martin Luther King, these people must be rolling over in their grave. Absolutely stupidity. As a collective society, we have got to get a grip on reality. This new revolutionary wave for change is needed in order for social growth, but it must be done rationally and not through emotional hatred. We've got to start thinking rationally. It's just, these are scary times, and I just don't know what people are thinking anymore. Thank God for the field of psychiatry, because I can't imagine if half the population were not already medicated. Craziness. All right, this is it. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Lou Stenberg assessment. We will see you next month. I just hope we can start using our cognitive abilities and start thinking rationally. Be rational thinkers. This is it for the Lou Stenberg assessment. I'm your host, Lou Louise. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you next month. Take care.